Alright, what's up guys? Back again with another log where I just talk to myself alone in my van to the camera. Hope you're doing well. Today's video concerns the software of our brain, and the question I'm centered on or focused on is, where do our thoughts come from? I've been really toying and wrestling with this question as I've been playing with VS Code, learning how to use model specs in development with no coding experience. I guess I am like a vibe coding monkey, but I'm in awe of what we are capable of doing at this point in time. Today is October 5th, 2025. And there is a lot of news in the zeitgeist, and this feeling, this clanker hate, all this hype. And let me time myself so I don't ramble too much. Here, I got my key points here too. So don't mind me if I refer down, if my eyes don't look to you. I'm sorry, it's just not very natural to me to talk to a camera yet. But this is a big crux as to why I think my generation feels a certain anxiety and uncertainty. Because I think the shape of work is changing. We cannot deny this paradigm that is changing the shape of work. I think if misused, we lose our critical thought. We lose what it means to be human. And I don't want to lose that. It is a scary thought to think that we are useless, that we cannot be productive members of society because we are useless in comparison to the machine. I think a fun question to ask or to think about is, would you let agents read your mind? And maybe that's a weird question, but I asked this question because there's a song lyric I like from this song entitled Who You Are by Dijo. And there's a quote that says, or his lyric at the end of the song is, "Reinvention fails the people who hide pain." And I think as humans, we want to maintain this sense of privacy, this sense of agency, this sense of sentience over what emotions we share to others and what we express. Because expression, I think, is really the only thing we have when it comes to our thoughts and our emotions and the art we create and the things we build and the businesses we try and construct and produce. But I'm in the belief that you cannot hide your pains or your joys. You cannot hide these embedded thoughts and then your code of thought and your unconscious. And I don't want to get too woo-woo, but I think it's an interesting question to ask. Would you let an agent read your mind? Because I think, what is there to hide? Do you think these thoughts belong to you? And maybe they do. Maybe in the technical, legal terms, the thoughts that come past through your intelligence is your intellectual property. And I think this is a very interesting discussion point because we really don't know how IP or intellectual property will unfold with all these new tools, Sword 2.0, all these things that just pull and pull and pull from the zeitgeist, from people's thoughts, from their internet digital footprints. It just pulls and pulls and pulls apart and dissects and takes it. And you can't deny that this gets into really deep water and weird, uncomfortable territory. I don't really know what to do with that. It is a very gray area for us. Like, how do you know this video itself is not AI generated? I promise you it's not, but who knows? It's like I have to prove to the internet that I am not a prompt, that we are not prompts, and not to go too Truman Show on you. But these are scary thoughts that could lead someone to spiral. I don't think you should be scared of them. I think these are important considerations to have. Because it's really hard to find truth, I think. And maybe there is a sense of faith that is required in truth. Like, even in science, you need to have some sense of faith in the information you're reading, that it is true, that it is a good source of information. That's just strong research principles. I think you should be skeptical of anything you see. You should have a kind skepticism, and through compassion. But it is scary that things can be replicated in an instant just by simply words at your fingertips. But I think there needs to be a distinction here, right? At least for myself to try and understand. There is a distinction between absurdity and falsity, where absurd is things beyond a reason, things that are paradoxical, nonsensical in appearance, and then there's falsity, which is logical inconsistencies with reality. I bring this up because we live in an absurd world where truth is stranger than fiction. It's easy to create these narratives. It's easy to create false realities and false images, false personas, with all these tools that we have at our disposal. And I think it is like holding a very dangerous toy in your arsenal. It can be easily misused and not used for good. And how do we move from this? How do we navigate this? How do we know what is real and what is not? This is scary to think of. I don't know. Sorry, I had to recollect myself. But I think the more the future unfolds, the more we have to deal with absurd situations that may or may not be in our control. But despite these absurd conditions that may or may not be true, we still have to live on as humans to navigate and to be more self-determined in our intuitions, in our critical thought, in our faith or in our heart, whatever that holds us at our center, whatever it holds us to being human. And I hope this doesn't get too nonsensical for you. Hope these words and these sequences of thought do not get too absurd that it gets hard to understand what I'm trying to say. Just think of the trolley cart problem and all the moral ambiguities. How would the machine deal with these moral ambiguities? How would it deal with the trolley cart problem? And we can program it with these weights and these thoughts of what it would do, almost like a utilitarianistic view, trying to optimize for the best result, the best outcome, to create the greatest return on investment. I wonder if that sounds like a familiar thought. Maybe that is the best thing that the machine can do, but I think these moral ambiguities still require our agency as humans, because that creates accountability, responsibility, moral weight to situations that are uncomfortable or absurd. There's a quote I like from this book I've been reading, if I could find it. The Myth of Sisyphus. It talks about the absurd a lot there. The quote goes, "Obeying the flame is both the easiest and the hardest thing to do. However, it is good for a man to judge himself occasionally. He is alone in being able to do so." So I think the flame here, for me at least, symbolizes the truth. The flame of truth. It is hard to interpret what is truth. It is hard to deal with the absurd situation that we may exist in a void of mind alone. That everything that we know to be true can be burned at a moment's notice. Could all go aflame in a fire. But again, this leaves a gap between us and the truth, between what our reality is and what we ought to do. Personally, I believe God exists within these gaps that we cannot necessarily feel or understand, things beyond our reason. But I know this answer is not always satisfactory to to people watching. But I also think of this koan that goes, "If you see the Buddha, kill him. If you see the Buddha, kill him." And I think this is a wake-up call or a reminder that you should not be so attached to your truth, your knowledge, your artifacts of wisdom, to not be caught in your own arrogance, in your own self-righteousness. I think that's a better way to put it. I'm thinking of an image of Sisyphus. He is a mythic character, I think from the Greeks, and he pushes a marble up this gravitron. If you can imagine the marble slides that you play with as kids, like the ones that has like slides, it's all that weird contraptions. And I see Sisyphus toying with the marbles. Oh, there's birds chirping. What the hell? It's like almost 11. I hear birds chirping outside. Sorry. Um, but I see Sisyphus as a high agency character because despite his condition, he pushes the marble up and he builds this contraption, this gravitron, I think. I think that's how you say it. The rolling ball machine. And he sees the ball move in all these different contraptions, maybe exhibiting emergent properties of all these loop-de-loops and ways it can just bend kinetic energy to sustain itself. And it is a beautiful sight to see all these motions and movements and spirals and loops, to witness the machine itself self-generating and creating itself. But Sisyphus, is responsible for putting the marble back in to let it roll and to push it up again. Maybe man's role is to watch the machine, the mechanism of life unfold. Maybe that is our role in life, and these thoughts that we have could just be a part of the mechanism we call consciousness. And I think that is a beautiful thing. There are some days where I question it all, that maybe I'm not in control of it, that maybe I'm not in control of my own fate. But there's this one saying that I love, amor fati, love of one's fate. Regardless of what is true on fate or free will, you should love your fate regardless. And I think this comes out of a very self-deterministic thought, a self-determination theory, where no matter your condition, you still choose love. You still choose what it means to be human. You still choose to rebel against the condition that you are set in, and you still choose to forge meaning. There was something I wanted to say with that. But, what is there to hide? What is there to hide? Maybe we are all connected through this collective unconscious that Carl Jung theorized. And that would be a beautiful thought. I really like this concept because it makes us connected through love, connected through consciousness, connected through thought. It is a very intimate concept, how our thoughts can map onto each other, how our souls can map onto each other. I think that is not far from possibility. Because love exists, we are able to bridge our experiences together. Although I may never understand your suffering or your pain, I can share my own suffering and pain through my words, through my thoughts, through my expression, through my art, through the work I build, through the work I do. To pass on the torch, to pass on the fire, to feel the fire, to feel it burn, to burn regardless of the pain and of the joy. But the pain and the joy is important, so you cannot numb yourself to it. But you must detach yourself from it. You cannot get so attached that it paralyzes you. And I think I am a victim to that. Maybe victim's not the best word. I think I'm guilty of that, of letting these sentimental thoughts the sentimentality of memories of the past. Hold on. As reinvention, what was the word? What was the lyric? Reinvention fails the people who hide pain. That's what it was. Do you let your pain, do you let your joy contain you? Do you have agency over your own thoughts that may or may not be yours? I say to be a productive member of society is to be a high agent, to maintain high agency over your own condition, no matter how absurd it is. To live on, regardless of all the hate, the deception, the lies, regardless on if you know what truth is. Because really at the end of it, all we really have is our own thoughts, our own expression, our own experience that we are a witness to. And I say witness it all. Witness the fire, witness the joy, the pain. Reattach, detach, reattach, let it go, hold on to it. Do all these things. I say, yeah. But thanks for watching. I'm over my time. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch these thoughts, to watch my story. Subscribe if you like, to follow along as I build this out. Okay. There's something I wanted to reinterpret. Oh, I farted. Sorry. But I did say that truth was a flame when I referenced the quote from Camus from Myth of Sisyphus. But I think the flame instead is faith. Obeying the flame is the easiest and hardest thing to do. Because when he was discussing it, the flame, he was referring to Nietzsche. Hope I said that right. And it was concerning all these virtues in an idealistic world. And I think faith points to a more idealistic world. And I think by saying that the flame is both the easiest and hardest thing to do, it requires this form of surrender of the will, the surrender of agency. And maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but I think that's the interpretation I'm holding with this symbol of fire. So I just want to make that note before posting this. The faith in the gap. The gap of fire. Fire in the gap. Alright, well, love and appreciate you. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, go do things. Go push the marble, go build machines, go do what we were born to do. I think. Alright, I promise, last thing. The press of death should allow you to think more clearly. The fragility of life you should not fear. The closer proximity we are to death, the more, I don't want to use the word more, the closer proximity to life and death, the closer proximity you are to death, the greater the appreciation you have for life. I'll just put that out there. All right, that's it. I promise. Tune back in next week. Or not. But don't die. Don't die, please. Not on purpose, at least. Don't die on purpose. But live with purpose. Yeah. Just want to make that clear.